organizing today, and for our good friend Will for bringing in the pizza. That is good pizza. I've got to remember Sal's. I've just come back from D.C. As those of you who are friends of mine on Facebook know, we got the endorsement on Wednesday night from Log Cabin Republicans, which is a really great national organization. They do not endorse easily, and they actually did not endorse that night. They waited until the next day for a press conference. So they are a national, very organized group. I think that they endorsed just less than 12 candidates, and I was fortunate to be one of the candidates that they endorsed, so it meant a lot to me. Newt Gingrich was the keynote speaker, and what Newt had to say was that the two things that we need to be worrying about as Americans is the threat of, and we were just talking about this in the other room, the threat of Islamist terrorism and domestic terrorism. And as we know, this government and this president will not say the word Muslim. We have to, because that's who our enemy is. Locally in Connecticut, and particularly in my district, the 5th District, which you all are part of, you cannot drive down a road without seeing a for sale sign, a for rent sign of the business right here across the street. This obviously needs a tenant. That's what I'm concerned with. I'm very concerned about security, but it's job security and it's national security. So we're very excited about November 8th. Esty is just the most ineffective representative, and I use that term in air quotes, that I think Connecticut has probably ever had. I will be an active and engaged representative and will be proud to be your next congressman. So I just thank you for letting me take some of your airtime. Thank you.
Republican Town Committee for what a dynamo place.
Yeah.
But you made a good point that it's frankly sad to see that such a dynamo place is empty.
Yeah.
It's good for us realtors to work on something, but that is the economy. The economy is really rough right now for a lot of people, and I think in Connecticut that's been evident for a long time. But let me just give you one thing, a couple things to think about Connecticut economy. $20 billion budget. The next biennium budget, we do 2-year budgets, it's coming up, is probably going to have a $4 billion hole. $4 billion, $20 billion, okay? So think about that for a minute. That's a big, big number. We had a $1 billion hole this year, and so you've been hearing lots of the social service agencies screaming and yelling, and they should, because the governor has been hitting the soft targets for cuts. And he did that because the legislature didn't take their responsibility and be specific about where the cuts would be. They just said, oh, well, we can't find this $285 or $320 million in cuts. Governor, you go take care of that. Well, he did. He took the soft targets. And so that's a big problem. Other point that's very important in Connecticut. I mentioned the budget, but what most people don't realize is our obligations are to your great-great-grandchildren. That's how big they are. So here's the case in point. We're number 2 lowest in the country for unfunded pensions. So we have these very wealthy, rich pensions for state employees, and we are not putting enough money away to keep that fully funded. That's number 1. Number 2, we are up to here in debt. So the bond commission, the governor gets to go hand out candy everywhere, and this week we just handed out $220 million to Sikorsky. I did vote for it, that's another story, but the point is that we are up to here with debt. And there's no end in sight, frankly, which is a big problem. So we've got a lot to work on. This next legislative session is going to be a nightmare. So brace yourselves, because it's a $4 billion hole, and we can't raise taxes to get out of it. Lastly, we have a realistic opportunity. Some say it's a small one, but I think it's a bigger, realistic opportunity to pick up 4 seats in the Senate and flip it Republican. And you need 12 in the House. You seem to have an avenue to get there. I've seen it mapped out. They're actually targeting 18. If Trump holds his own in Connecticut and doesn't get clobbered the way Obama clobbered Republican presidential candidates, it will happen. It definitely will happen. So keep that in mind. You know, it's really the people on the street. When you're hearing people that say, and I run into them occasionally, I don't like either one of those candidates for president, I don't want to go. Well, what about everybody else?
Yeah.
See, that's the problem is, if they're not encouraged to go out to vote for the top of the ticket and they don't show up, that's how you lose.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's real important that we talk about our local candidates, because that's where the rubber hits the road in politics. All politics is local. Well, thank you. Thanks for being here.
First off, I want to say thank you for all coming. It's really important to the political process that we have the volunteers and the engaged citizens that you all turned out to be. You know, one of the things I want to reiterate, as Mike had talked about, is the Sikorsky deal. What you see here in Connecticut is a business that's been here 50, 60, actually a lot longer than that, for many, many decades, nearly a century. Yet here in Connecticut, it was costing them $400 million more to operate here in Connecticut than it would be in the next costly state. My point in saying that, there's something intrinsically wrong with how Connecticut regulates and taxes its businesses here in Connecticut that is forcing businesses who have fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to ask that question: can we continue to be profitable here in Connecticut when they can go to another state and save $400 million every year? We have to look at the tax structure that they're being taxed, the regulations and the costs that they have to pay because of our state laws, because of our state legislatures. You know, the thing I want to point out the most is here in Connecticut we have tried for the last 6 years this experiment, this crazy idea that we can tax our way into prosperity. And as you all know, it has been a miserable failure. We are lagging behind the rest of the country. It has been a painful experiment and a painful lesson that we have all learned. It doesn't work. A lot of times I listen to my opponent talk about he wants to hold a, it'd be great to have a conversation on that. It'd be great to have a conversation on that issue. What I keep on saying is, for the last 6 years, we've been having that conversation. Where have they been? Have they not been listening to us? It has been a failure. So, with that, when we come into November, I know there's a lot of angst about what's going on the national level, but as Mike has pointed out, the lower half of the ticket, I just want to remind every one of you that what happens on a local level impacts you directly and immediately. So please, encourage your neighbors to remember that there are a lot of people that are depending upon them to go to the polls. Without their help, it's going to be another dragged out term of this crazy idea that taxation is the answer to everything. We want to send a message to Hartford and to the rest of the country that this constant need for taxes has got to stop. This addiction to your money to fund their crazy ideas has got to stop. So with that, I want to again thank you all for coming. We have a great bunch of pizzas from Sal's. Please enjoy it, okay?
Thank you. Thanks to Bill and to the entire Bethel RTC for hosting this event today. This is, as Clay said, a beautiful headquarters. It's clean, it smells nice. It's very rare to find a headquarters like this. So thanks. Congratulations to Bill and the RTC for finding such a good place. I just kind of want to echo a lot of the words that Clay spoke so eloquently on, and Will and Senator McLaughlin. Is a differing opinion on how to move forward. I think Senator McLaughlin mentioned the $4 billion deficit we're facing in years down the road. And I think that the intrinsic difference between Republican candidates and between the Democratic candidates is how we solve that problem. I think how I envision solving that problem, how Senator McLaughlin envisions solving that problem, how Will envisions solving that problem in the state legislature, is to find ways to make our government more efficient, to make some cuts in areas that need to be cut, and to balance a budget where we don't have to tax the people of the state even further than they're already taxed. I think the Democrats view this budget and view this deficit as how can we find more revenue to take from you to fill the deficit gap. And I think that's a huge difference between the two-party candidates and how we run our campaigns and how we envision the future of this state. For those of you who know because of my my wife's social networking prowess. So I was married in July, as everyone has seen, and I know the future that I want to have with my wife and someday down the road our children growing up right here in the community that I was raised in. And the way the Democrats envision this state going is not the place I want to raise my children. And I can guarantee you it's not the place you want to see your grandchildren and your children raised in as well. We need to bring some fiscal sanity to the State House. We need to bring some fiscal and foreign policy sanity to the federal government in Clay. And it needs to be done now, because it's a crossroads for our state, it's a crossroads for our country, and I believe that a lot of the Republican candidates have the solutions and have the resolve to make sure this state gets going in the proper direction. So I really appreciate your support. I look forward to meeting you on the campaign trail, to talking further about these issues, and I will see you at the polls on November 8th.
I'd like to also take a moment to remind everyone that earlier today we had a couple of other candidates who were here. Dan O'Grady, who is running for probate judge, has a very strong opponent in a Democrat from Ridgefield. And unlike just the local Bethel candidates, there's some 50,000 voters that need to be reached. So we'll be hoping to use this campaign headquarters in the next few weeks as a base of operations so that each of our candidates have a place to come to make phone calls, to get out the vote. Additionally, State Senator Boucher was here earlier. Signs are available for distribution here as well. What Senator Mike said about switching from D to R in the Senate, I can't overemphasize how important that is, because some of our local delegation will have very senior positions in a Senate majority run by Republicans. So it's not just a case of switching the balance, but that we have some really high level of talent that would take senior leadership positions when that happens. In addition, we also have a local election for Registrar of Voters. Tim Biebel will be our one and only candidate, but I think unopposed.
No speech.
No, there's two. You can vote for Nancy as well.
Okay, so we have one Republican here, and I appreciate Clay and all the other candidates coming to show support. We will be here staffed somewhat every Saturday till the election takes place. October 29th is Trick or Treat Street. So there'll be a big event all through Greenwood Avenue in Bethel. We will have table and tent in front of Dan O'Grady's property, distributing various campaign materials, but most importantly, candy for the kids. So please be sure to bring candy that we can stock up for that.
What's the peak
And
time? Can you
pardon?
tell the candidates what's the peak time for us to be there? Good question.
I
1
really,
o'clock
I really don't
starts
know.
at
About
1.
it starts at 1 and goes until about 4 p.m.
3:30.
3:30. So 1 to 3:30 on October 29th. So again, thank you for coming, and please enjoy the pizza. We don't really want leftovers. We've got coffee, we've got donuts, we've got pizza, we've got great people here. Thank you.
I'd just like to remind you that October 10th, we're going to have our little short Columbus Day parade, okay? It'll be over in P.T. Barnum Square itself, so be there for the support of the Columbus Day activities.
What time is it?
9 o'clock
9 o'clock, October 10th.
a.m.
Okay, all right. I'll march with you. I'll be there.